Hi, I'm Garen Kilpatrick, and I'm going to be reading The Last Question by Isaac Asimov. Now, before I start, I'll tell you just a little bit about Isaac Asimov. In addition to being the president of Mensa, he was probably the most prolific writer of his time, or one of them. And despite publishing a new book or short story every week, he considered The Last Question to be his favorite and his best. So on that note, I'll start the story. The last question was asked for the first time, half in jest, on May 21st, 2061, at a time when humanity first stepped into the light. The question came about as a result of a $5 bet over whiskeys, and it happened this way. Alexander Adel and Bertram Lupov were two of the faithful attendants of the multivac. As well as any human beings could, they knew what lay behind the cold, clicking, flashing face, miles and miles of face of that giant computer. They had at least a vague notion of the general plan of relays and circuits that had long since grown past the point where any single human could have possibly had a firm grasp of the whole. Multivac was self-adjusting and self-correcting. It had to be, for nothing human could adjust it and correct it quickly enough, or even adequately enough. So Adele and Lupov attended the monstrous giant only lightly and superficially, yet as well as any men could. They fed it data, adjusted questions to its needs, and translated the answers that were issued. Certainly they, and all others like them, were fully entitled to share in the glory that was the multivacs. For decades, multivac had helped design the ships and plot the trajectories that enabled man to reach the Moon, Mars, and Venus, but past that, Earth's poor resources could not support the ships. Too much energy was needed for the long trips. Earth exploited its coal and uranium with increasing efficiency, but there was only so much of both. But slowly, Multivac learned enough to answer deeper questions more fundamentally, and on May 14th, 2061, what had been theory became fact. The energy of the sun was stored, converted, and utilized directly on a planet-wide scale. All Earth turned off its burning coal, its fissioning uranium, and flipped the switch that connected all of it into one small station, a mile in diameter, circling the Earth at half the distance of the Moon. Unattended, idling, sorting data with connected lazy clickings, Multivac 2 had earned its vacation, and the boys appreciated that. They had no intention, originally, of disturbing it. They had brought a bottle with them, and their only concern at the moment was to relax in the company of each other and the bottle. "It's amazing when you think of it," said Adele. His broad face had lines of weariness in it, and he stirred his drink slowly with a glass rod, watching the cubes of ice slur clumsily about. "All the energy we can possibly use for free. Enough energy, if we wanted to draw on it, to melt all Earth into a big drop of impure liquid iron, and still never miss the energy so used. All the energy we could ever use forever and ever and ever." Lupov cocked his head sideways. He had a trick of doing that when he wanted to be contrary, and he wanted to be contrary now, partly because he had to carry the ice and glassware. "Not forever," he said. "Oh, hell, just about forever. Till the sun runs down, Bert." "That's not forever." "All right, then. Billions and billions of years. 10 billion, maybe. Are you satisfied?" Lupov put his fingers through the thinning hair, as though to reassure himself that some was still left, and he sipped gently at his own drink. 10 billion years isn't forever. "Well, it will last our time, won't it? So would the coal and uranium." "Ask Multivac if you don't believe me." "I don't have to ask Multivac. I know that." "Then stop running down what Multivac's done for us," said Adele, blazing up. "It did all right." "Who says it didn't? What I say is the sun won't last forever, that's all I'm saying. We're safe for 10 billion years, but then what?" Lupo pointed at a slightly shaking finger at the other. "And don't say we'll switch to another sun." There was a silence for a while. Adele put his glass to his lips only occasionally, and Lupov's eyes slowly closed. They rested. Then Lupov's eyes snapped open. "You're thinking we'll switch to another sun when ours is done, aren't you?" "I'm not thinking." "Sure you are. You're weak on logic, that's the trouble with you. You're like the guy in the story who was caught under a sudden shower and who ran to the grove of trees and got under one. He wasn't worried, you see, because he figured when he got to one tree, and when he got wet enough, he'd just go to another one." "I get it," said Adele. "Don't shout. When the sun is done, the other stars will be gone too." "Darn right they will," muttered Lupov. "It all had a beginning in the original cosmic explosion, whatever that was, and it'll all have an end when the stars run down. Some run down faster than others. Hell, the giants won't last 100 million years. The sun will last 10 billion years, and maybe the dwarfs will last 200 billion for all the good they are. But just give us 1,000,000,000,000 years and everything will be dark. Entropy has to increase to maximum. That's all." "I know all about entropy," said Adele, standing on his dignity. "The hell you do! I know as much as you do." "Then you know everything's got to run down someday." "Alright, who says they won't?" "You did, you poor sap. You said we had all the energy we needed forever. You said forever." It was Adele's turn to be contrary. "Maybe we can build things up again someday," he said. "Never." "Why not? Someday." "Never." Ask Multivac. You ask Multivac, I dare you. $5 says it can't be done. Adele was just drunk enough to try, just sober enough to be able to phrase the necessary symbols in operation into a question in words which might have corresponded to this. Will mankind one day be without the net expenditure of energy to be able to restore the sun to its full youthfulness even after it had died of old age? Or maybe it could be put more simply like this. How can the net amount of entropy of the universe be massively decreased? Multivac fell dead and silent. The slow flashing of lights ceased. The distant sounds of clicking relays ended. Then, just as the frightened technicians felt they could hold their breath no longer, there was a sudden spring to life of the tech type attached to the portion of the Multivac. 5 words were printed. Insufficient data for meaningful answer. No bet, whispered Lupov, and then they left hurriedly. By the next morning the two, plagued with a throbbing head and a cottony mouth, had forgotten all about the incident.